Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Guys Who Stare at Stats. I'm Cade Kennedy alongside Andrew Santangelo. And Andrew, it is the big day. It is baseball Christmas for some teams. It is coal under the stocking for others, I guess I should say. It is the MLB trade deadline. Gifts dropped already, especially if you're a San Diego Padres fan today. Great day for baseball, as always. I know we talked about it on the show last week, one of the best times of the year. And as always, getting into the show to get everything started. Before we get into the trades and recapping everything, this is going to be mainly a baseball-only episode today. Andrew, the question we always start with, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. I mean, everyone knows by now how big of a baseball fan I am, so today is one of the greatest days, if not the greatest day of the season, especially the regular season here, and especially with what happened today, one of the best trade deadlines in a long time. A lot of different things happening from today, from a couple days before. I mean, you name it. Almost every team was involved in some way, whether it was good or bad. We can get into that later on who our winners and losers are of the trade deadline. I was disappointed in some teams in terms of just value of where I like in the sport. So, it's fun. Overall, today, this trade deadline always brings a smile to my face and brings a great day here.
It absolutely is a great day. Getting right into the trade tracker that ESPN has provided. We've got to start with the big one. The San Diego Padres trading for Juan Soto. Absolutely massive trade that happened earlier today. The price for the Padres, of course, Jeff Passan reporting, far from cheap. Mackenzie Gore, Robert Hassel III, C.J. Abrams, James Wood, and Luke Voigt being the trade package. Now, Eric Hosmer was originally in this trade package as well, but he has that no-trade clause, so he is getting sent to Boston instead with that trade. But obviously, this was the big prize, so to speak, that everybody was going after. So, Andrew, what are your thoughts about this trade?
Yeah, I thought it was a great deal for both teams. Obviously, Juan Soto made it known he didn't want to be there when he declined $440 million. So Washington had to go out and get somebody. They went out and got some pretty good prospects in the return, and they get a MLB-ready guy now in Mackenzie Gore, and they bring in Luke Voigt. So a lot of good MLB playing there. Obviously, in a down year here for Washington. Josh Bell being added, what an addition there for San Diego. And we talk about the rich getting richer. You're already adding Soto in this deal to Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis team. Tatis hasn't even played in San Diego. He's playing this well. Now you're going to add Josh Bell, one of the best power hitters in the game, and then another guy who's hitting over 300 with a lot of power. A very good day there for San Diego fans. I'll wait till later to get into it with the Cardinals, with the deal that happened late to go into that situation. But no, I'll hold off on that. But no, Washington got a lot of good return here. I really like Gore. Hassel's going to be a good player. C.J. Abrams, I think, is a really good prospect there. So they got what they could here. It was tough, obviously, with Soto wanting out. It did hurt his trade value a little bit, obviously, because Washington had everything to lose in that sense, because with him wanting out, it wasn't like you could play that card of, he's still going to be under control in arbitration because he wanted out. So you really didn't have that standpoint from Washington. So they did well. They got what they could here.
They absolutely did, and I'm just excited to see the lineup the Padres roll out because, you're going to have Tatis Jr., you're going to have Juan Soto, you're going to have Machado. This is going to be an insane hitting lineup. This is the best shot the Padres are going to have to take down the Dodgers. If you want to beat them, you got to have all the firepower you have. You've got to build your own super team to fight the super team, I guess, and that's exactly what San Diego's doing here.
No, without question. And they're a team that's always been active, whether it's the offseason or the deadline. You saw them bring in Sean Monet. You saw them bring in Blake Snell a few years ago. You saw them bring in Joe Musgrove. You saw them bring in Juan Soto. You saw them bring in Machado. They whether it's a trade or a free agent acquisition, Padres have loved to be active here the last few years. So it's exciting to see. It was nothing short of different there for them. They also bring in this is a non-MLB or non-trade deadline day trade. This happened yesterday. But they bring in arguably the best closer in baseball, and Josh Hader, on Monday evening before this trade deadline day. So they add in their bullpen. So, no, overall, fantastic job by San Diego. And it's incredible because for how much they make trades, I don't know how they still have prospects filing. It's not like they've been bad enough to be a top five or be a top five pick in the draft. Like, That's what I'm wondering. Like, where are they pulling all these prospects from? But somehow they keep getting them, and they're able to make these deals. And it's crazy, and good for them. And obviously, I think we all kind of want to see somebody challenge the Dodgers and soon enough overthrow them for that division. Might be a little late there for now this year, but they're going to bring a lot of these guys back next year, so it'll be fun, especially next year, too.
It absolutely will be. I'll just go ahead and get into it. I had a few other trades to talk about first, but we can talk about Josh Hader going to the Padres as well. Interesting to see the Brewers do this a bit because when you're in contention for the division, you usually don't think about trading one of your closers or the guy who kind of resembles your closer most of the time, but the Brewers have always done this, I feel like. They like to stay ahead of the game. You have to when you're in the NL Central. It's a division that you feel you should win. It's either you or St. Louis this year especially. So I don't think it's the worst move. It's certainly a weird move. It took me by surprise when I saw, like, really? I guess they're doing that now. I mean, I understand it, but it's still odd to see.
No, yeah, without question. And you look at Josh Hader, and his ERA is skewed right now, 4.24. He ran a couple rough outings. That's what kind of stinks about relievers. You don't have the benefit of the innings pitched like starters do, where if you have one bad outing or so, your ERA is not going to be too affected by it. Well, relievers, you figure they're only throwing one, maybe two innings a night, so they have one blow-up game, and it turns into this. I mean, you can see the article here. If you look at it, before the All-Star break, he had a under 2 ERA, and then all of a sudden, just in, 10 games after the All-Star break, it's already up to 4.24 because of one bad outing, one really, really bad outing, and then I think he had one shaky outing as well. So, no, just I didn't understand this trade from a Brewer standpoint. To me, if you're contending like that, you're first, you have a chance to go on and win the World Series with that pitching staff and Corbin Burns, etc. there, and then you had Josh Hader to close things out. This trade makes zero sense. I get Taylor Rogers has some experience, so you stay in there, get some closing roles there, and you get some prospects back. But to me, this screams there's something wrong with Hader in the locker room. We knew he had problems in the past with the Brewers a few years ago, and it seemed like those were past us. But maybe he wants out of Milwaukee. Like, to me, there's something else behind doors that we don't know about. Because this trade is just too odd for a team currently in first place in their division.
And Andrew, I think you're right there with that. There feels like there probably is something off here because, like I said, you don't just trade your closer, just because you need to trade. You don't just trade a guy like that who has all the skill, had a sub-2 ERA right before the All-Star break. You have one or two bad games, and you're gone. Something has to be up there. I don't know what it is, but as we'll see with what the Brewers have been able to do, they're still going to be contending in the NL Central. Nothing's going to change there.
No.
But looking at your Phillies, going to talk about them, kind of one of the other big trades sneaking in just a few minutes before the deadline ended on top of a few other trades. Noah Syndergaard going to the Phillies, and you got Thor. So congratulations on that, Andrew. The National League wild card race continues to heat up as if it already couldn't be tighter than it is, with the Phillies and Cardinals battling for that final wild card spot and everyone around them. Phillies are making moves. They're trying to get into that wild card spot, and I know we talked about this with that extra third spot this year. Something is going to happen. Teams are going to stay active, and we're seeing it now.
No, without question. And as a Phillies fan, I absolutely love this. I have no complaints anywhere around. You filled every need possible. One of the biggest complaints all year is Phillies don't have enough bullpen. Well, you added the back end of the bullpen here with a guy who's throwing fantastic this year, having a career year under 2 ERA. You mix that with Sir Anthony Dominguez and Brad Hand, just a tremendous job there. You add Brandon Marsh, big question mark in center field for the Phillies so far as a platoon to Double Herrera, Mickey Moniak, Matt Vierling. I mean, I can keep going. We've had over 5 guys, so I'll stop. But you ensure that there with some defense. And listen, everyone's complaining because the offensive numbers aren't there. But Phillies, people forget, these don't count as trade deadline acquisitions, but they're getting 2 of their best hitters back. They've been playing the last month or so without their 2 best hitters in Gene Segura and Bryce Harper, so basically trade deadline acquisitions. So the offense is already getting better. So this is a pure defensive move the Phillies needed badly. So I love the addition of Marsh. And then Noah Syndergaard, again, you need a starting pitcher. One of your starting pitchers goes down. He's out to at least September. And everyone's always said he'd be a pretty good back-end bullpen piece, 1 to 2 innings there. as a former starter and his stuff. So now you can maybe move him back to the bullpen once he comes back. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Noah Syndergaard is not prime Syndergaard from when the Mets won the World Series, but he's better than what the Phillies are dealing with right now. He comes in and he's probably the 3 starter in the rotation. So no, Dave Dombrowski came in and did everything I could hope for. I mean, you give up a couple prospects, but listen, prospects are prospects at this point. You look here, and this is why I always say it, Mickey Moniak, I hope he goes on and does well. I mean, I got nothing against him, but he was number 1 pick in 2016. And he hasn't done anything so far. And I get it. He skipped college. He came straight out of high school. He's still young. But, at some point, he was number 1 pick, and I think he was a top 10 prospect in all of baseball at one point, and he just didn't pan out. So, prospects are prospects. Because that's – as a Phillies fan, I can tell you this, one of the biggest knocks against Marsh right now is because we traded Logan O'Hoppe, and he was the 3rd best prospect in the system, 86 overall in baseball. But again, you're trying to win now. You're not, and you have and he's a catcher, so you have JT here locked in. So the trade makes sense from Philly's standpoint. Can you argue it was a little bit much? Maybe, but again, you're trying to win now. Prospects are prospects, and we talked about that last week.
Yeah, you take that risk when you're trying to win now. You're not going to worry about the future. You're trying to worry about right now. If the Dodgers were trying to worry about the future and right now, they're not going to be as good as they were. Same thing with the Yankees, same thing with the Astros. That's the sacrifice you have to make. That's in every sport.
Absolutely. And look at the Padres. They must have all these top-ranked prospects every year to be getting these guys still. How many trades are we looking back on going, man, Padres really lost on that prospect. Padres really lost on that prospect. We aren't. And there's a reason for it.
There absolutely is. Moving on to the Red Sox, they get Tommy Pham from the Reds and send Jake Deichmann to the White Sox for Reese McGuire. So the Red Sox making moves as well. That whole AL East is just stacked together. Everyone trying to separate. The Red Sox being last in the AL East, something I did not think I would be saying this year. But here we are. So they go out and get Tommy Pham from the Reds, make a few moves, and I always love this. Trading Tommy Pham for a player to be named later or cash consideration. We don't know yet. We're trading him for some guy. We got no idea. Maybe I know it's happened before where you trade for a player to be named later and that ends up being that player you traded for. I know that's happened a few times in the MLB. Fan favorite cash considerations always showing up. Sometimes the real MVP of the team. Always fun things like that.
Yeah, no, without question. I was confused by the Red Sox. They go out and make a trade for Tommy Pham, and it makes it seem like they're going to be active. And then all of a sudden they trade the starting catcher and Christian Vasquez, a great locker room presence guy too. So Boston didn't make much sense. They went back and forth, it seemed like, between selling and buying. So I don't really think they got better or worse. But they should have picked one or the other, in my opinion. They had some guys there that won't be back next year most likely, because they don't want to go over the luxury tax. So you had an opportunity to get some prospects back for them. They decide not to. So it's going to be an interesting case. But, no, yeah, it's just a very weird deal here. White Sox get a decent reliever in Jake Deichmann. Left-hander can throw the ball pretty hard. So we'll see as Chicago tries to make a run at the wild card. But Chicago, team that stayed a little quiet, was a little surprising. But this was an interesting move. But, again, I was confused by Boston this year.
I am, too. This is a weird Boston team. I know we've talked about it. I really don't know what to do with them because they're perfectly 500. You don't know which Red Sox team you're going to get on any given night. Are you going to get the team that gets absolutely dismantled by the Blue Jays, or are you going to get a team that can beat the Yankees? The inconsistency of the Red Sox knows no bounds this year.
Yeah, to me, they're done. This is the end. They're not going to make the playoffs or anything.
I would think so.
We'll see where they go in the offseason.
And moving on to the next trade, I saw a lot of sad Orioles fans when this happened. They know it had to happen, but Trey Mancini getting traded to the Houston Astros. Astros making a few moves, also getting Vasquez from the Red Sox. Houston just doing what they need to do, getting a few bats here and there, just filling in some gaps as they try to make another championship run.
Yeah, Houston's another team. Had a great, fantastic trade deadline. They bring in Vasquez. They bring in Mancini. So they did everything they could hope for there in Houston fans. Yeah, no, I feel bad for Baltimore. They finally started clicking. They started gelling as a team. These guys were on the upswing, and you see them trade a guy like Trey Mancini who's overcome cancer. He's really built the locker room up, and it was a sad day. I don't think it had to be done, if I'm being honest. I think he'd be willing to go back at this point. You got to the point you were at. You're finally starting to win some games. Are you going to make the playoffs? I'm going to lean probably not, but you're still under contention, and there's still an opportunity here to be made. And you trade him and Lopez, your closer, and he had interesting things to say today on that deal, which made things kind of put it in perspective for myself there, in which it's a side you never really think about there, and especially with the way it happened. As I try to bring up his exact quote here in just 1 second.
Yeah, but looking here, the general manager, James Click, saying, our focus obviously is trying to put ourselves in the best position that we think we can to compete for a World Series this year, and those are two guys we think can help get us there. So the Astros, to the surprise of absolutely no one, are all in on trying to win another World Series.
Oh, yeah, no, without question. And James is absolutely correct there. I mean, these do put you in a better position to win a World Series, and they absolutely will. I mean, Mancini's a great player. Vasquez, great locker room guy. And Astros, one of the weaknesses was catcher. Now they upgrade there. So, no, yeah, absolutely great day for Houston. Lopez's quote here, talking to the Twins media when he got traded to Minnesota, it became a family. It's a family. It's a lot of tears because we worked so hard to get to this point, but not afraid to get this chapter started, end quote. I mean, it says it right there. When you're struggling like that, you have that young team, you've been there for a few years, you're trying to build it up, and you finally click. I just imagine that. You finally start clicking. It's like, okay, this is fun. You call up your highly talented prospect. He took a week or two to get going, but now he's really panning out. And it's started to feel like it's everything they hoped that process would be. And then all of a sudden, in the snap of the finger, you're trading two guys that help build that locker room. So I can't even imagine being in that situation.
I can't either. I really don't know I just can't believe it. The Orioles finally getting good, and like you said, do you keep with the plan or do you change it now that you're winning? It's a difficult decision to make. But a lot of Orioles fans have succumbed to their fate that we got to stay the course here. This is a bit unexpected to be this kind of jump this year, but you got to stay the course is what they're thinking. Moving on to the Yankees, they needed to trade Joey Gallo. Most Yankees fans will tell you you're not going to take a guy batting 159. That's not going to cut it for the Yankees this year, even though he does have 25 home runs. 194 strikeouts, that's a bit yikes, I guess you could say is the best word for it. But the Dodgers going to take a chance on Gallo as he gets traded from the Yankees to the Dodgers. So getting to go from one contender to another, basically.
Yeah, this was an interesting trade. I don't know. I feel like the Dodgers were trying to add bench piece here. I don't like the fit, if I'm being honest. Yeah, he's not a bad defender, but he's been struggling this year. To me, he's a lesser version of Cody Bellinger, so you already got that in your lineup. I mean, who am I to say here? I mean, obviously, the Dodgers are the best team. But, like, to me, it's just a logjam for L.A. I feel good for Joey Gallo. He had to get out of New York, and hopefully he can re-find himself in L.A. But I just don't think he's going to get enough playing time to re-find himself in L.A. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes about from here and how it's going to happen. But I thought the return there for the Yankees and getting Beater was pretty good, though.
I think so, too. The Dodgers, like we just talked about, getting a depth piece, that's pretty much all they need at this point. You look at the Dodgers last year, they had Albert Pujols who could step in at any time if they needed a bat. Get, Joey Gallo out there, hope for a home run, get something going. If you ever need any energy, you can always go to your bench. And that's something that I think is not talked about as much in baseball, is the bench, just like any other sport. The bench is still extremely valuable in baseball.
Oh, yeah, without question. But you can thank for that is Rob Manfred.
Yeah.
I mean, adding the DH and the NL, the bench has become a little less useful. I mean, you think about it, in the NL, you used to have ninth. I mean, you get to the seventh inning, you're pitching in for the pitcher. You don't have that anymore. It's another aspect you lost in the game there, and now you really only see it. Pitch runner maybe in the ninth inning, maybe a defensive replacement in the ninth inning. That's what you're getting nowadays. So I miss those days of, okay, you got to have to strategize there, but it's what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. But moving on to the final main story I had put up here until we get the after trade deadline trades that get reported.
We got a couple.
We will get into that in a moment. But the Cardinals acquiring Jose Quintana from the Pittsburgh Pirates. This was the Cardinals' big move, I guess you could say it looked like, of the deadline, hoping for Juan Soto. Cardinals not getting him, obviously. But the Cardinals did the one thing they needed to do that everyone agreed they had to do. They got a starting pitcher. Not the greatest guy in the world, but you got another solid pitcher to come in and hopefully get some innings in, just keep eating away at it, try to get your starters and bullpen, everything in order if you want to make a run here. So, as a Cardinals fan, I guess I could say, not the greatest thing in the world, but at least it's not nothing.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'd be disappointed if I'm a Cardinals fan. I mean, this trade itself isn't bad. Quintana's a good pitcher. He's having a better year this year. He's been up and down in his career, and I think it'll go a long way for him. And I just think this was a win for him, obviously. But I think what proceeded late in the day today, which we'll get into here in a little bit, so I'll save that for later, it is why the Cardinals have taken a hit in my mind in this trade deadline. But they could have had a lot better deadline. We should be sitting here praising the Cardinals instead. Instead I'm disappointed. I'm not even a Cardinals fan.
Yeah, well, I expect this, so I guess I'm not. When you expect them to do things like this, it's not the worst thing in the world. But looking at the complete trade deadline tracker, we can kind of go through if there's any, Andrew, that 100% stick out to you. Obviously, looking at some of these here, like Whit Merrifield being traded from the Royals to the Blue Jays. Raziel Iglesias has been traded from the Angels to the Braves, so that's another Angels trade. It seems like the sale is on for the Angels. Everyone except Trout and Ohtani basically going to get dealt, it feels. And then the one we were just talking about, the Yankees trading Jordan Montgomery to the Cardinals for Harrison Bader. This is one for Cardinals fans that was a bit tough to swallow. Bader's been a fan favorite for a long time. Great defensive outfielder, but with his plantar fasciitis, I guess the Cardinals front office thinks it's a lot worse than we all do. So why not deal him and try to get some pitching instead?
Yeah, I'll start in order. You went in Iglesias. Huge.
I went out of order on you, but
Well, you went. Oh, I guess you went Merrifield then.
middle
up,
down.
I already forgot. I just figured you went in order. Iglesias, big get for the Braves. They needed another piece, especially after trading Will Smith to shore up that bullpen, as they got Jake Odorizzi for the starting rotation. This gives them some bullpen piece after trading Will Smith. So a good move here for Atlanta. Angels had to take what they can get at this point. But no, yeah, a plus move for the Atlanta. Going to Whit Merrifield, this was a little shocking to me. Kansas City hasn't wanted to trade him in the past few years, and Toronto's a team that's known for kind of not making a big move, but they finally both made that splash. I mean, Merrifield wasn't going to get any better at this point in his career. It was a tough Kansas City team once again, so this was a good move for both teams. Now, here's where the Cardinals come in. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not even a Cardinals fan.
Yeah.
So this is coming from a neutral voice.
Yes.
You're telling me you wouldn't trade Bader or Carlson for Juan Soto, but you're going to let them go or one of them go for Jordan Montgomery? Like, this just makes, like, Juan Soto is a generational talented piece, and the only thing holding back that deal was Dylan Carlson. And I got nothing against Dylan Carlson. But Juan Soto's 23, Carlson's 23. You would have had a couple prospects, obviously. So basically what you're saying is Dylan Carlson's as good as Juan Soto, if not better, by keeping it.
Yeah.
And you were so stingent on not trading on those young guys that have had MLB experience in the Gorman, in the Bader, in the Carlson, and you give a Bader for Montgomery? You didn't even need Montgomery at this point. Like, you got Quintana. Like, Montgomery is basically Jose Quintana 2.0. Like, that to me, that was a lot for Montgomery. And I get it. You already mentioned the injury history of Bader, but I mean, still, like, I don't know. I'm not a Cardinals fan, so you can correct if I'm wrong. Anyone in the chat who's a Cardinals fan can correct me if I'm wrong. But to me, I would be fuming right now if I was a St. Louis fan that I had an opportunity to get a generational talented piece, and it was Carlson in the way, and then you give up Bader for Montgomery. That's just contradicting itself in my eyes.
To me, it's not the – I agree it's bad. I will agree with you. I don't like it. I know Bader's been injured and that it seems he keeps getting injured more and more. But at the same time, he's nice to have out there for defense.
Yes.
That's his whole point, pretty much. But I'm not surprised, I guess I should say, because I'm used to the Cardinals doing this. Outside of the Goldschmidt-Arenado trades, which were obviously successful, every single year this happens. Those were two exceptions that just so coincidentally happen to be back-to-back. Every year, the Cardinals get linked to someone big, and it never happens. This is just the St. Louis thing. It happens with the Blues, too, if you ever notice. They'll always be in the running for a guy and then finish second. They never make the final piece, and ever since 2011, when we traded a bunch for some pitchers and it just happened to work out that year and the stars aligned, every year we think, oh, well, we need to go find this old pitcher and maybe he'll be revived somehow. We've done this so many times, and the worst part is it never happens. It has not happened once. I do not understand why we keep thinking it's going to work, and it never does.
Yeah, I mean, last year you saw you trade for a very old John Lester and a very old J.A. Happ at the end of their careers instead of going out and getting real talent when you had a shot to win the World Series. So, no, I get that's what the Cardinals do a lot, but, again, I'm just saying I'm
disappointed, too.
I'd be fuming right now if I was a St. Louis fan.
I guess I'm not fuming because I expect it. When you get in the cycle of it, you're just like, oh, I can't wait for us to make a trade for trade's sake, and it improved nothing.
Even when I do expect it, I still get mad. So
I don't know. I guess because I've done it long enough, I've lived through this cycle before. Looking at some of these other ones to recap here, the Mariners announcing they've gotten Jake Lamb from the Dodgers for a player to be named later or cash considerations. The Twins have acquired Michael Fulmer from the Tigers. The Mets have acquired Darren Roof from the Giants in exchange for J.D. Davis and 3 pitching prospects. Looking at some of these here, Brandon Drury getting dealt to the Padres from the Reds. Like we said, the Reds trading around quite a bit today. Twins finalizing a deal to acquire Tyler Mao from the Reds for multiple prospects. So quite a few trades here, just boom, 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 as we always expect with the deadline.
Yeah, the Jake Lamb trade, I don't take much of that. I think, again, more depth this time for the Mariners. I'm not a huge Jake Lamb guy. I hope he proves me wrong and can help Seattle break that playoff drought. Darren Ruff, a guy that's been around the league for a while, again, doesn't really make much sense from the Mets standpoint. I was a little confused by it, and I don't know. I like Ruff. He used to play for the Phillies. He has potential and stuff. He's a journeyman. He struggled, or he had a really good rookie year, struggled, played over in, I think it was Korea for a little bit, and then came back with the Giants. So this was kind of a surprising move from both sides. I just don't think it fits the Mets well there, and with Alonso, and they already got a crowded outfield. So that was a smaller deal. This one, an underrated deal. Brandon Drury is a fantastic player this year. Cheaper guy so far with the Reds. So, again, another fantastic move for San Diego, just a win. And then Twins, they had an underrated trade deadline. I think it's maybe because it's Minnesota, but you don't hear much about what they did today. They go out and get a guy like Tyler Mamali. I think he's underrated. He was in a tough spot in Cincinnati. I really like this deal from Minnesota. I think he's going to do big things for them. And, again, we already talked about the Lopez deal, a very good closer, a guy that can go, a rare 2-inning type closer there they got from Baltimore. So Minnesota had a sneaky trade deadline here.
They did. I mean, you see them and that's kind of how the Twins always are. You don't really notice what they do, and then they make the Twins did a thing. Oh, wow. But that's kind of how the whole AL Central is going to be this year. I mean, you see the Guardians, the White Sox, the Twins. No one really seems to care about any of them, getting overshadowed by literally every team currently. But that's just life in the AL Central so far this year. But looking at some of these other trades, obviously already talking about some of these. Now it's kind of hard going back on this because now we've gotten through most of the major ones. So if we stop on one, there we go. The Blue Jays finalizing a deal with the Marlins. Shortstop Jordan Groshans going to Miami, and Zach Pop among players going to Toronto. And then Orioles, Twins, there we go again with the Twins. Twins getting George Lopez, literally George Lopez. I hope it's not George Lopez because I'm going to have some fun with that. But Mr. Lopez from the Orioles going to the Twins. Cade Povich, Yunier Cano, and more prospects going to the Orioles. The Braves have acquired right-hander Jake Odorizzi from the Astros for Will Smith. So I'm going to tell you right now, I know we've talked about I have no idea who any of these people are. I'm good for them. this is where me not knowing baseball enough comes in, because I don't know any of these people. I'm just hoping they have a funny last name. That is where I'm at, Andrew.
Well, you're welcome. Here I come.
Okay. Please explain
probably
baseball
to give too much, but no, Zach Pop. He's a guy that's been in my division for a little bit, so I've kind of watched him. He's a good late inning reliever. I don't think he's going to be a closer type role for Toronto. I think he'll be able to eat innings late in the game and give them an opportunity. I like his potential there in Toronto. A good deal for Miami. I mean, a late inning reliever like that, you're going to just get what you can get for him. So yeah, a solid move. Like I said, Lopez, I love this pickup from Minnesota, a contender here. Again, I didn't like Baltimore trading him away because I don't think he's that old. So he's a guy they could have continued to keep. But because he's also got control. So he would have been under contract for a little bit. And that's one of the things. That's why Minnesota had to end up giving up a little bit extra here in this deal, just because he's under control. Jake Odorizzi, a kind of a rare trade here. You don't really see a straight-up one MLB guy for an MLB guy. In terms of that, so I kind of like to see that every once in a while. You have Jake Odorizzi, who's been a solid starting pitcher in his career for a reliever, and Will Smith, who a left-handed reliever. He was a huge part of that Atlanta World Series team last year. So I was a little taken back and shocked to see them trade him. I know he struggled a little bit lately, but with everything he did last year, you saw the postseason success from him. That's why I was surprised to see it. So that was a surprising move in terms of giving up Will Smith. Jake Odorizzi was on the market for a while from Houston, and Atlanta needed starting help with the struggles from their young guy, Ian Anderson, who showed promise in past years. So a little surprising move here, but I like it for both teams. Astros needed bullpen help on the left-handed side. And then Matt Bush, after trading Hader, I mean, it says it right there. Matt Bush is a guy, he can go out and throw pretty fast, gets close to 100, if not tops out around 100. And that's something, I mean, Milwaukee's going to hope he can come in and just take that closer role and not lose much. Is he better than Josh Hader? Absolutely not. Is he going to maybe be able to hold the fort down? He probably could do that. He's a guy, he'll give up base runners, but he finds a way out of it a lot of times. So we'll see what he's able to do in a high contention situation.
All right, let's see. So we continue slowly moving down the list here. The Yankees getting another right-handed starter with Frankie Montas and closer Lou Trevino in a trade with the A's. We talked about the Hader and Mancini trades, and Scott Efros also going to the Yankees from the Cubs in exchange for minor leaguer right-hander Hayden Wisniewski. So just a few more to add to the list here. Yankees trying to get some pieces as well.
Yankees got better. I mean,
they did.
The rich got richer again. I already used that once. Here it is again. I mean, for them to add Frankie Montas, unbelievable. They get the closer and Lou Trevino as well. Just an unbelievable deal. I mean, the A's, I still can't believe the amount of talent the A's have traded away in the last year. It's just unbelievable to me in that sense. I mean, they could have did something this year, and that's where it's disappointing there from Oakland. Josh Hader, I already touched on that one, so it's surprised, but jumping down that Yankees one again, just more depth from that. I mean, you can never have enough bullpen depth, and that's what they get. And a guy like Scott Efros, not gonna be a lights out like they got on other deals, but he's a guy who'll be able to eat some innings in the middle relief.
And as we continue to go down here, let's see what else can we find. The Braves announcing they've acquired I almost completely butchered that. Adrianza. There we go. From the Nationals in exchange for Trey Harris. Atlanta also designated Robinson Cano for assignment. San Francisco has traded for Cubs shortstop Dixon Machado and sent right-hander Rainiel Espinal to Chicago. Look at some others. Tampa Bay acquiring veteran outfielder David Peralta in a trade with Arizona. And the Cardinals, hey, we did a trade. Yay, the Cardinals and Phillies. Of course, during the length of our show, we got a Cardinals-Phillies trade. Cardinals announcing they've acquired a left-handed pitcher, Jojo Romero, in exchange for Edmundo Sosa. And then the Dodgers, we talked about what they've been able to do. Same thing with the Yankees, just building up depth. They get Chris Martin from the Cubs.
Yeah, so the first one's a minor league deal, a couple minor league names in there. It's nothing big there from the Braves Nationals. Jumping down to, let's see where it really gets big.
So now we're kind of getting into they happened, but
the Giants Cubs, another minor leaguer for minor leaguer, nothing too crazy. The Rays here's a good depth move. Tampa Bay always a team that stays quiet as well. They get David Peralta from Arizona. That's a big addition there for depth for that Tampa Bay squad. I was excited to see. I thought Tampa could do a little bit more at the deadline. I say that every year, I feel like. Cardinals and the Phillies, they made a good trade here. I think it helps both teams. Sosa wasn't getting enough at-bats there in St. Louis. A pretty good defender. That's what the Phillies needed between shortstop or middle infield to center field, and they did that today with Marsh. And then they bring in Sosa as well, so I was excited to see that. Cardinals get a guy in JoJo Romero. He's a clubhouse favorite. He's a guy with a lot of potential. He's coming off Tommy John surgery, so it'll be interesting to see if he can get back to where he's supposed to be, or at least somewhere near it, and be a good left-handed reliever for St. Louis out of the pen. And then, again, Chris Martin, not a bad pickup. Dodgers just getting some depth there from the relief standpoint. And then Luis Castillo. I mean, the biggest starting pitcher on the market this would have been last Friday. He gets dealt. And for the Reds get a fantastic return there for him. The fact that they got Herrera and Marte in that same deal was just incredible. So good return there for Cincinnati, and that was good to see for them.
And then the final trade, because then we get into Benintendi and Vogelbach and some of these other trades that already happened. The Mets acquiring Tyler McQuinn and Phil Deal in trade with the Reds. So one final Reds trade to end it on. They were pretty active. The whole NL Central really was active, it felt like, except for even the Pirates, who really weren't that active, they still had 2 trades that they had. So the whole NL Central moving. Some of the big ones, though, like Contreras not getting traded, Ian Happ not getting traded for the Cubs. People expected that. People expecting Rodon to get traded from the Giants. That didn't happen as well. So a few big names not moving. People didn't know what was going to happen with them, and that always happens at the trade deadline. Some guys get moved, and some simply just don't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you saw it. You had Carlos Rodon, Jock Peterson, Ian Happ, Wilson Contreras. A lot of good names that were supposed to be moved and didn't. And that comes down to asking price. And there's things that go in and out. Obviously, teams want players, but you need both sides to agree on it. And I think that's sometimes what gets mixed up is, how do we not trade for this guy? Well, you need 2 teams to agree. That's why. It's not necessarily that your team didn't go after the guy. But, no, a fun deadline, one of the best I can remember in years, one of the best for my favorite team, which made it even more exciting. And it puts a lot of teams in position to do something.
Yeah, I mean, it sure does. As someone who had an to infuriating trade deadline, yay, I guess, woo baseball. That's about all I could say. But I do want to take one quick look at the MLB standings before we get out of here. We're not going to touch on football news a whole lot. We're going to save that for our Thursday show. We have a big show later in the day on Thursday. We get Tyler Riggs over. One of my friends going to have a big college football preview show. That is going to be a lot of fun. But looking at the American League before we get on out of here, nothing really changing except a little bit of separation now between Toronto and Tampa Bay and a little separation between Tampa and Baltimore. But the Yankees with a 70-34 record, they're going to keep controlling the AL East. The AL Central getting exciting again. White Sox and Guardians each within 3 of the Twins. Guardians only a game away from Minnesota now. We get the AL West, the Astros, still a commanding 12-game lead over the Mariners, and then another 8 games of separation between Seattle and Texas. Looking at the National League, the Mets have a 3.5-game lead over the Braves with a 65-37 record for the Mets. Both New York teams doing well right now, something that is usually not seen a whole lot in the MLB. The Brewers have a 3-game lead over the Cardinals in the battle of who's going to win the NL Central. It's a coin flip at this point. You never know which side. I know the Cardinals have one of the easiest remaining strength of schedules. Brewers have a lot more difficult strength of schedule. We'll see how that gets settled there. And the Dodgers and the Padres. The Padres are slowly building up. They have Juan Soto. They have another hitter to go with and another great player ready to challenge the Dodgers. But can they overcome a 12-game deficit? That's going to be really difficult to see.
Yeah, no, they're. I don't think they'll be able to overcome the 12 games. I mean, I think they'll get in the playoffs in a wild card spot. But listen, I mean, you look at the teams. San Diego added a lot. Dodgers added a lot. Phillies added a lot. Braves added a lot. Mets was shockingly quiet. I can say I was shocked to see them quiet. I do think Atlanta did make enough moves today or throughout the week to overtake the Mets. It's gonna be a fun race down the stretch. Brewers and Cardinals, I feel like they both took a step back, if I'm being honest, which is weird to say. They have two.
We both suffer.
Like, it's weird to say. If two teams fighting for a playoff spot, fighting over the division, and instead of getting better, I mean, I guess they got Quintana, so maybe the Cardinals got a little better. I thought the Brewers took a step back with that Hader move. I think that hurts them a little bit. So, I don't know. Yeah, weird for the NL Central. Again, both teams there at top and fighting for a wild card spot if they can't win the division. I felt took a step back, which is weird to say.
Listen, we have the bucket of crabs mentality. We will always pull each other down.
Yeah.
We have too much Midwestern hospitality. We're so nice. We're going to let everyone else have fun, and we're just going to sacrifice our own team for the greater good of the MLB.
That's very nice of you.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's why we're the best fans in baseball. We sacrifice our own team to let you be happy.
Yeah. I think the GM does that more than the fans, though.
That is true. If we had it our way, we'd be like, no, trade for everyone. Become the Dodgers.
Yeah. He speaks for the fans.
Yes. But looking at the AL, I really want to see, as we look at the wild card, we have an absolute log jam here. I really am excited to see how this works out, because now the Guardians are only a game back. You have Tampa Bay and Seattle now fighting for that second spot, and Toronto is 3 games ahead. 8 of their last 10 they've won. And the crazy thing to me is that even someone like the Rangers, they're still technically in it. They're only 8 games out. Is it a lot to overcome? Yes. Can they make that up? Technically, yes. It's still just wild to me with that third wild card, how much that changes things.
No, without question. I look at it, the Rangers got plus 6 point run differential. That's what's funny about it, too.
Yep,
but no, it's going to be a fun race. I mean, any of those teams can really take that last wild card spot. We've seen Seattle collapse last year. Cleveland's playing better than we all thought. Baltimore's a surprise team. So I think there's a couple opportunities here. And, again, you're waiting for that White Sox run to come about.
And then looking at the National League, the Braves continuing to dominate that first wild card spot. The Padres are 4.5 games back, but like I said, can they cut into that? I think they can personally and make that a run with the Braves. And then the Phillies and Cardinals and even the Giants, if you want to throw them in there, all within 4 games of each other, battling for that, or 4.5, I should say, battling for that final wild card spot there. And you never know. Maybe the Marlins, Rockies, or D-backs get hot for a little bit and make it a little bit more contentious.
No, absolutely. And the fun part is the Phillies and Cardinals, there's no reason they can't catch the Padres. I mean, you're sitting 2 games back of the Phillies are sitting 2 games back. The Cardinals are sitting 3 games back of the Padres. Who's to say they don't even possibly catch Atlanta? I mean, 6.5 is doable, especially in the same division. You get to play them a lot. I mean, the Phillies about to start a series with Atlanta, so if you're able to take 2, you make up ground and you go from there. So it's going to be a fun race. The baseball is doing it well with the extra wild card spot, and I'm excited to watch these final 2 months.
The other funny stat before we get out of here I want to mention, the Braves, Padres, Phillies, and Cardinals have all won 6 of their last 10. And then the Giants, Marlins, and Rockies have all won 3 of their last 10. So we've got patterns going on, a little bit of separation there. Could be a lot closer, but it simply isn't. But, hey, that's baseball.
Exactly. No, and all teams can do those, switch those runs.
Yep, anything can truly happen. And that will do it for our show today. Another successful trade deadline season. Another lot of crazy things going on. As always, we thank you for tuning in. It has been a wonderful show, as always. For Andrew Santangelo, I'm Cade Kennedy. If you liked what you heard tonight, be sure to give us a follow on Twitch at NWTV7. Subscribe to our YouTube channels, whether it be the NWTV7 channel or the Guys Who Stare at Stats. And be sure to come back Thursday night, 7 or 7:30. You'll have to follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, to find out when exactly we go live. It is going to be a fun show. Our college football preview show. That's right, folks. Football is almost here. We're under a month away officially. It is such a fun time of the year. And it's coming quickly, folks. Believe me, if you think about it, it'll be here. You just got to keep getting through old games, I guess, or continue watching baseball, whatever you do. But you'll want to be there for that Thursday show. It's going to be so much fun. And until next time, have a wonderful evening, everyone.